Shortly after Luca Williams-Barnett's deliciously casual Panenka against Sydney, RDZ taunted us with the promise of a Bomba. The ITKs, long since out of ideas, went into a froth. Turned out Bomba in Italian means we might buy someone one day, maybe, who knows. We beat Chelsea in chaotic fashion, Kinski making world-class saves, Danso getting sent off before he was even on, and half the academy holding out, backs to the wall, before Richie scored a blinding 2-yard tap-in, which begs the question, are we fucking stuck with him? When asked if Richie's staying, RDZ admitted the man's mind is like a weather vane in a gale. Just as we were on the verge of a verbal agreement in principle for preliminary understanding between all parties for Krupi, he suffered a foot injury and all bets were off. Who's next? Osimhen? Watkins? Gakpo? Who knows? Meanwhile, Mason Melia is off to Lincoln. I'm getting a Vuskovic vibe. Will he ever wear the shirt? Sousa may be going to Porto, and Mikey Moore could be heading to Köln on loan. No! But maybe he's not all that. On the bright side, Kulusevski is back in full training. People are concerned he'll be slower than before. How? But with that magic left foot, who cares? Speaking of which, does Andy Robertson have an educated left foot, or is it a wand? We'll have Room 101 and a bunch of other stuff for you. Strap in. It's Nice One, Cyril.
Nice one, Cyril.
So welcome to Nice One, Cyril. On the podcast today, Julie Welch, who wrote Spurs history, Rob White, who was born into it, Kev Acott, who overthinks it to the point of complete confusion, and I'm Simon Lipson, who can't remember any of it. Let's start with this pointless tour. Rob, 1-1 against Sydney with that Luca Williams-Barnett outrageous Panenka, and then we beat Chelsea 2-1. Let's start with that Sydney game, kind of a, scratch side, waste of time. Not sure what the point was. Did you get anything out of that match?
No, because I was away, so I saw the highlights. I took out of it the fantastic thing, which was that we now have a goalkeeper who's actually able to save a penalty in Dubravka. I think that's the first Spurs goalkeeper that saved a penalty in my living memory, especially in a shootout. So that was my positive, and obviously the outrageous Panenka. Is there any other type? Who knows? Well, there is, the ones that just get caught by the goalkeeper. Aside from that, if we're just looking at the Sydney game, there wasn't an awful lot to be said and done with that. Somebody did put on a WhatsApp group that I'm part of, which is actually this WhatsApp group, that friendly only becomes important when we win it. If we lose the game, it doesn't become important, basically. So, but yeah, I think there were some interesting things to learn from the second game specifically.
Rob, don't refer to me as somebody. That was me, obviously. My perceptive remark on our WhatsApp group. Kev, nothing much to get excited about or to get too downbeat about with that game. There was more, more to enjoy in that MK Dons match when Luca Williams-Barnett looked very good and very dangerous and very silky. There was some suggestion that RDZ was asked whether he'd like to play a few more matches in Australasia, and he told him to fuck off. That seems to me to be he should have told him to fuck off for the entire tour, but it was probably already arranged before he got there. But it just seems to me counterproductive and pointless, jet laggy. I don't get it.
No, not at all. I mean, I guess there's not much to get. It's just a commercial venture, isn't it? It's about trying to open up the market in Australasia. I don't know. I suspect people who supported Tottenham and Chelsea in Australasia already do. I'm not even sure, really, from a commercial point of view, how successful that would be. If I was RDZ or any of the players, I'd be so pissed off about the whole thing. I think it's completely pointless. There's a little tiny bit of pleasure, actually more than a tiny bit of pleasure, in beating Chelsea, regardless of the setting on the environment. That's always nice. But no, it can't possibly have been part of the ideal preparation for a new season at all.
Julie, we've spoken before, haven't we, about the joy to be had in a young player coming through the academy, a la Harry Kane, Ledley King, and how rare they are, unfortunately. Ben Davies said this about Luca Williams-Barnett. He's a really top player, a lot of potential. I think you can see the qualities he's got. To have no fear and just want the ball again, even if he loses it, is great. Then RDZ said he's a precious diamond. We have to work on him in the final third, and he must work hard on his physicality. I've worked with a lot of young players in my time, and he's a potentially special player. That's quite an unusual accolade from a manager, and it just slightly redolent of Poch bigging up Marcus Edwards, who as the little Messi, who turned into not much.
Yeah, I mean, they're sort of words of comfort, aren't they? Because all our young players seem to be getting rid of. I mean, I see RDZ probably as it's the kind of Herod principle, he's getting rid of all our young ones. So maybe he's just bigging up Luca Williams-Barnett just to say, look, there is one that we might keep. Luca Williams-Barnett is impressive at his level. Like you say, I mean, Marcus Edwards. There you go. I'm not sure. I don't know how he will turn out. He's not a big bloke, nice passer of a ball. I still get a bit of a kind of meh feeling about him in a way that he's not yet kind of one who kind of grasps a game with his absolutely searing talent. Then again, Harry Kane didn't impress many when he first started off. So who are we to judge?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? As we've said before, there's no way to really judge a young player. They can look incredibly promising and not flower, and they can be shit or ordinary and turn into something. We don't know. Interesting, again, that RDZ said something about the young players. He said it's very important to produce players in the academy. We're working on Luca Williams-Barnett, Malachi Hardy and Mikey Moore, even if he's a bit older. Rob, he seems to be doubling down on this because, again, we talked about this on the pod before, that this sense that he's buying players who are ready-made, ready to step in with a bit of experience and turn us from absolutely diabolical team into a team challenging for something. But do you feel that this is him kind of towing the party line a bit? He's got to say this about the academy, but in truth, doesn't really believe it.
I think there's probably a mixture of both. And again, I don't profess to be a RDZ disciple. I don't know whether he did that at Brighton. I should probably know, but what the hell? I think something that's quite interesting about this is one thing, well, I guess also is that there's only so many players he can pick. And I know last year we had an issue with the number of homegrown players that could fit into the squad. Again, doesn't interest me, but somewhere along the line, you think some of them must be quota fillers. But something that struck me from watching the Chelsea game was, I think I'm right in saying that Archie Gray has been captain for all 3 friendlies. And I'm sitting there pondering, okay, that's great. That is absolutely fantastic. And I love Archie Gray. I love his heritage, his lineage and all of that. But actually, where does he fit into the side then? And I think that's it's almost a pertinent point for this youngsters versus more experienced players. And yes, he wants 2 players for each position. But actually, if you've made Archie Gray your captain for those first 3 tour games, then you're sort of suggesting you think big things of him. But actually, is he going to play right back, left back, centre back? I don't know. There's a conundrum for somebody else to answer, perhaps.
He does seem like an unusually mature guy, sensible when you hear him speak. He's articulate and he's sharp. I just wonder, it's an interesting point, Kev, that Rob raises there about Archie. In a midfield with Tonali and Fernandes, and hopefully they stay fit, you're going to need a creative 10, aren't you, somewhere in the middle of all that, and playing further forward. Now, that's not Archie. That's probably Maddison. It's possibly Kulusevski. I mean, there's no guarantee we'll get any games out of either of those 2. But it's certainly not Archie.
I can't remember exactly what he said, but RDZ said something when asked about how come Archie was captain for all 3 matches. The way he responded was sort of, it'll make him feel good. He deserves it. I like him. But it wasn't, he is our captain. He's going to even play regularly. It was sort of it just felt like a little bit of just make him feel good. I think Rob's right. I think hopefully we're heading towards a midfield that's a cut above last year's midfield, even when we didn't have the injuries. And I don't think Archie quite fits there. I don't think he's good. He's a squad player in a very good squad. He's a squad player. Last year, the year before, he did brilliantly, but I don't think he's good enough, and he won't be captain either.
I mean, Julie, is he what used to be called a utility player? He's that kid you can stick him in more or less any position apart from centre forward, and you're going to get a performance out of him.
I'm not sure about this because I think there's more to come from him. I mean, how old is he now? 21? I mean, he's still quite
20,
a young lad.
I think. 20.
Well, yeah, there you go. I like him very much. I think he's got immense personal qualities, which is what you need in a captain. There is the thought that he's not what you call a creative player. On the other hand, Tonali is, a creative player. I haven't seen enough of Fernandez to sort of be able to define him completely. What I'm saying is I really like Gray, and I hope he's not a utility player. It just doesn't seem right, because as I've banged on about it before, he reminds me very much of a kind of Perryman type who can play defensive midfield and back of the defence. He can play sweeper, somebody like that. Now, whether that fits in with, the modern way of playing, I'm not so sure. I'd always thought of him as a captain, but not yet, which raises the question, who is going to be the captain? Because Maddison, who everybody has been tipping to be the captain, he got what was called a knock, and we all know what that means, so wasn't playing. Who else do you think is worth the captaincy?
Well, we talked about Maddison only, really, didn't we? And there was a lot of talk about that. That's kind of done and dusted. That all remains to be seen. I don't know how important captaincy really is. Rob, let's focus on that win over Chelsea. I mean, it gets boring, doesn't it, beating Chelsea? God, we do it every 14 or 15 years. We beat them, and it's tedious. One of the things you were just talking about, a goalkeeper able to save penalties, but Kinski against Chelsea pulled off some saves that were astonishing. There was one in particular that reminded me of the save he made against the Leeds Longstaff, was it? From close in, just pushing a hand out and getting onto the bar. There's still a lot of doubt about whether he really is a number one. Personally, I think he absolutely deserves the opportunity to prove it. Are you convinced, or do you think Dubravka will play plenty of games? How do you see it?
No, I'm same as you. I'm absolutely convinced by Kinski. I watched the game on Saturday, and actually, again, I think I said it at the end of last season, and I will remember this season now. But to have a keeper that is equally comfortable, not equally uncomfortable with his right foot and his left foot, he's actually such a. It's almost a trick of the mind for me still, because I think his years of being scarred again by really poor distribution from keepers. So from that aspect, yes. Also, I mean, that save was phenomenal. There were other instances where, he didn't flap, he didn't panic, he saved what he saved, and with that save, there was a sort of a slight celebration. Yeah, it's only a friendly in Sydney, but it wasn't, it wasn't histrionics. It wasn't. He sort of realised that actually, it's a save. That's what I'm there to do. So I've got full confidence in Kinski. I know he's not a name, and lots of people may say, well, we need a big name keeper. But actually, no, I would go. He would be my first choice, definitely.
Yeah, I agree completely. And the thing is, I think with Flappy, apart from he's a good reaction keeper, but he flapped around and he didn't imbue his defenders with any confidence when he was on the ball. And Kinski looks like a footballer. You could imagine him playing in midfield. He looks that competent and comfortable on the ball. Other talking points from that win, Kev. Danso barely got on before he was off. Richie scored, of course, the great Richie. Interesting performances by kids. Donnelly, who's not that much of a kid, but he impressed. I think Hardy, again, looked like a good young player. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. Kira Maton, with that amazing run.
Rio. Just call him Rio.
We'll call him Rio. And of course, the other thing, we had 10 men for a half, mostly kids, and yet came out on top.
I mean, if you don't mind, I've got a 45-minute speech prepared about Danzo's contribution to the game.
Thank you. Let's have it.
Well, basically, he fell over, didn't he? He fell over. He thought, shit. And he did deserve to be sent off, really, I think. That's it. I've actually, I could do the whole 45 minutes, but I think I'll reduce it to that. I have to confess, I missed the last 20 minutes because I was actually at the Emirates. So I missed the winning goal. I've seen it, obviously, the highlights. But yeah, so I was actually sitting surrounded by thousands of red shirts with the word, for some reason, the word champions on the back.
Crazy.
It was very, very, very painful. But that's where I found out about us beating Chelsea. And I was more pleased than I should have been, having slagged off the entire tour and the pointlessness of all the friendlies. There was a real buzz when I saw that we'd beaten them. I think, hopefully it'll have a little, it'll be a bit of a blow to their morale and just a little bit of help to ours, I think. I think that was particularly being down to 10 men and scraping through. Richie, unfortunately, I think it's made him confident now. And so the chances of getting rid of him are even less. I don't know. It's the obvious thing missing, isn't it? Is a striker, a good striker. We have to have one. Otherwise, we're going to be mid-table at best, I think.
We'll definitely come on to that a bit later on. I mean, by the way, when you were sitting amongst those 200 Arsenal shirts and you heard that Richard scored the winner, did you, yes, come on, you Spurs. Did you do that in the middle?
I did do it. Yeah. I did it very, very quietly, but I did do it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for you. I want to have a chat, Rob, about Danso. He's looking increasingly like the odd man out here. Forget about the sending off, all right, these shit happens, but I think he was a stellar performer for us towards the end of last season. In fact, for most of last season, whenever he played, he put a shift in. Yeah, he made a mistake against Brighton. Okay. But he is a big, strong bloke who clears the ball out of his area and makes tackles. What he isn't is a ball-playing centre-half. We've now brought in Van Hecke. We've got Van der Ven. Senesi is a ball-playing centre-half. It seems to me that I wouldn't say Danso's days look numbered, but given how we imagine RDZ wants to play football, it would seem he's the sort of guy you might just drag him on for the last 10 when we're under the cosh.
Yeah, and it's almost, it's a shame because I thought I actually did think Danso was probably minutes played, possibly the player of the season for me. And I think he just added a big degree of stability. He's also got a good useful long throw, Simon, so not forgetting that. But it may be just that he's woken up and remembered that he's Kevin Danso, and he may have plateaued at Kevin Danso level. And I agree with you. I don't quite see how he fits into the shape that RDZ wants to play. See, I said RDZ, not RDZ. Yeah, so I think there's that. But also, perhaps there will be the opportunity where we decide to change slightly against different teams. I don't know, but yeah, he's one of the other ones that I do fear where he fits into our side.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of also begs the question, Julie, about Kuti. As we stand, where are we? Monday evening, he's supposedly going to Juventus for 45 million or something like that. But that could change. Inter wanted him. Maybe they don't now. The point is, he looks like he's going. So that's one of our ball-playing centre-backs gone. But tell you who's still around. Benjamin Davis.
Yes. What can I say?
Say something.
Well, yeah. I just think of Ben Davies as, he's like Grandpa sitting in the wheelchair in the corner of the dressing room, smoking his pipe and coming out with pithy saws about the old days and generally dispensing kind of comfort and wisdom. I don't actually really see him playing much part on the pitch. Of course, I'm often wrong. As for Romero, can't get rid of him. Nobody wants him. If you'd asked me that, even a year ago, I would have said, what? Everybody wants him. It's a little bit like the Danso situation in a way that, so many of the sort of leftovers of the last 2-3 seasons are kind of, they're leftovers. I'm just wondering if it's going to be a problem because obviously RDZ is just sort of constructing his own model. And if we can't get rid of these players, I don't know what happens. But I'm going to leave it there for now because I've got my 101 to come and I don't want to sort of, jump the gun at all.
I was going to say blow your load, but I won't.
No,
do that.
don't, please, honestly.
Okay. Now, let's have a chat. Kev, I just want to stick to Kucci for a second. A lot of people saying he's the worst captain we've ever had, right? I think it's a bit of a stretch, but there's this perception of him as only really concerned about playing for Argentina. Last season, he got injured. He got himself sent off. He didn't seem to be doing a great deal to prove him that he was the leader. He wanted to fuck off to Argentina at the end of the season when we were still fighting for our lives. I just wonder whether players... And also, the other thing is he seemed to have an enormous amount of power in the dressing room. This was allegedly. You don't need players like that, do you, in the collective? Or do you? Do you need a strong voice? Do you need a strong personality?
You need a strong voice and a strong personality. I'm just not sure. You need someone who seems to be, it's so hard to judge from the outside, but who seemed to be quite toxic in a lot of ways in terms of his influence on the team. I think if we started looking in detail at least one of the sendings off, he was unlucky. But it just sort of added to everyone's fear about his toxicity in a way. I think, does he care more about Argentina than us? Yes, but he'll care more about Argentina than whatever other club he goes to. I think that's not necessarily a terrible thing. I'm not sure about him as a player as well, and I think he's a decent ball playing. When you described him earlier as a sort of ball playing defender, I think I was thinking he's not quite though, is he? He can be at times, and then others he just his standing still thing, waiting for someone to run for him to sort of knock it up to, just took so much momentum and so much energy out of the way the team played last year. Now, again, you could say that maybe that's not his choice. maybe he was, being coached to do that. But if he goes for a decent price, whatever that is, whether that is 45, 50 million, I'm sort of all right with that. Not least because I think we've got some good players already in. We don't have to scrabble around trying to find a replacement for him, I don't think. So overall, I suspect he will go, and I don't think we'll miss him that much.
Rob, I want to focus a little bit on injuries because we've really suffered with injuries over the last couple of seasons, and undeniably that had a great impact on where we finished last season and the season before, for that matter. Just before, I think it was the Sydney game, I think RDZ said Danso, Van der Ven, Solanke, Van Hecke were not ready to play without risk. They suffered injuries last season, and after a long trip, after the jet lag, after the beginning of the preseason, I wouldn't like to take any risk, which, as we said, what the fuck were we doing in Australia and New Zealand anyway? Then we learned that Fernandes had an injury, which was described as a fatigued calf. I would call that a calf strain, but there we are. Maddison, not well. And so it goes on. I wonder whether we have somehow extricated ourselves from this plague, or whether this is something that is for whatever reason, an ongoing theme, and we are going to struggle with it next season as we have for the last two.
We've got three weeks almost, just under 3 weeks to go to the season starts. And I think back to the Chelsea friendly, what was quite evident was, for one reason or another, most of our attacking-minded players are either long-term injuries who are coming back, as Kulusevski, obviously we've mentioned, Maddison. Yeah, there's quite a lot of creativity that has to be slotted back into this side. So actually, I'm not going to be completely chicken licking about this. The sky is not falling in. We'll just have to see what happens. And I think actually from that side on Saturday, watching it, I thought that the midfield was very combative, is a nice word, which it's lovely to see against Chelsea. But it was also quite stodgy. And I think Bergvall is one that I sort of struggle and I fear for him. I think personally, if we could get rid, then I probably would. And actually, that's quite a nice thing about what seems to be happening, is that there's a degree of, I know we've just talked about we can't get rid of our old Turk, but there seems the degree of a lack of sentimentality within the higher management. And we are moving players on and we're not holding on to them and thinking, Marcus Edwards, good case in point, he's going to be really good. Actually, no, he's not going to be good enough. Let's move him on. Yeah, so I think there's probably enough cover at the moment. Wait and see what happens, really.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's interesting how RDZ, Julie's talking up everybody, isn't he? So we think Gallagher's a bit shit, but he thinks he's the bee's knees. He's talking up Kuti. He's talking up Richie. He's talking up Bergvall. All of these players who we think are on the verge or possibly of leaving. Do you think, is that a ploy? Is the idea to say these are valuable players to us? If you want them, you've really got to, you've got to stump up with the cash.
I think that there's a lot in what you say. And also I think, it doesn't cost him anything to be nice, does it? Because it helps the players' confidence. Yeah, they've all turned into gems, haven't they? It's actually good to hear a manager praising his players and saying good things about them, as you say. And I think I'll probably come on to that in Room 101 as well. You do wonder, with a manager like RDZ, who actually seems at the moment to deal very well with the press, you do wonder, what's he not saying? What's he avoiding saying?
He's a smart operator, I think, isn't he? And I don't think many of his words are just thrown out into the ether for, just for the hell of it. I think everything he says has a kind of a point. So I wonder whether he's making a point to the board. I mean, this is another discussion here about this Bomba shit. Now, Kevy, he said, we've got a Bomba coming. We've done 60% of our recruitment. And of course, this sent all of the ITKs, let's be honest, it sent us all into a bit of a froth. What did he mean? And then, of course, he rode back on it and said, Bomba doesn't mean what you think it means, or it means something else in Italian. But there are so many names now going around, and we've made an offer for Gakpo, or there's discussions about Gakpo. Supposedly, we've made an offer for Osimhen. Then there's Igor Thiago, is it? Brentford. And I don't know. And then of course, so apparently just before we went on air here, I read that we've made a £47 million bid for Shelderup. And I still like to do the same joke from last week. What's the matter, you? Shelderup your face. But of course, I won't do that because that's just going over old ground. But we don't know anything, of course. It's typical Spurs. They always play their cards close to their chest. But in a perfect world, would any of those players excite you? Gakpo, Osimhen, Thiago, Watkins, maybe even Shelderup your face. Would any of those players get you excited?
Osimhen, yes. Yeah, that's about it, really.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Moving on.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I get particularly excited about any of the others you mentioned.
Savinho?
Well, I think I mentioned before, I'm not excited about Savinho. I saw something, I'm going to forget what it what it was now, but I'm going to just misquote it anyway because it was on Twitter, so it doesn't matter. That Savinho, Gakpo, and someone else, 3 players that we've been linked with, scored fewer goals last year than Richarlison. I'm not sure that says more about Richarlison than about those 3, but but maybe you're right, Julie.
We discovered last week that he scored precisely 32 goals in 133 games. So it's not stunning, is it, Rob? And I mean, Gakpo plays off the left anyway, so when playing for Holland, he scores a lot of goals because he tends to play more centrally. But I'm with Kev a bit. None of those are desperately thrilling, and it kind of bespeaks a lack of talent, a lack of centre-forward talent, perhaps even a lack of wide left talent for us to choose from.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because I think back to the Romero figures that are being lobbied about, and obviously we don't know anything about that, but we're talking about the same transfer window where Elliot Anderson is 130 something and Morgan Rogers is over that for sort of good to middle to average, not none of them Dave Mackay, put it that way. Yet there seems to be a dearth of centre forwards or goal scorers that are moving, as in moving clubs. I think I'm the same as Kev. The only one that really sort of vaguely excites me is Osimhen, but then he's sort of a typical Spurs signing where he could just turn out to be absolute shite. We're paying £500,000 a week for. Yeah, I wondered whether RDZ's Bomba was effectively the use of the Italian dessert, which is like a circular ball. That was what I thought he meant by that, basically, like an ice cream. I was quite excited by the thought of a Bomba for everybody.
Well, that's one interpretation. It's a stupid one, but it's an interpretation.
That's why I'm here.
Julie, let's come to you on this. I put something on our WhatsApp group the other day about Andy Robertson because there was a little compilation someone did online of him against Sydney playing a volley of beautiful crafted balls into the penalty area off his left foot. And I asked whether his left foot was an educated left foot, or did he have a wand of a left foot, or were they the same thing? And you were very clear that they are not the same thing.
Well, the thing is that apart from anything else, educated left foot is a kind of, it's a historic term. I mean, we're talking the 1950s and even sort of the early 1960s when reporters actually used to say he's got an educated left foot, whereas wand of a left foot is more kind of, it developed, I'd say, in the late 70s, early 80s. I think that Glenn Hoddle was probably one of the early recipients of the accolade. But then, of course, you're getting on to feet like a set of golf clubs, which again was something that was started with Glenn Hoddle. I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for saying, bring back educated left foot. I think these old terms are great. It's like bring back the groat and all that sort of stuff. It's nice to have a bit of history in this hellscape that is modern football.
Indeed, yeah. My favourite description of Glenn Hoddle's feet was by Terry Vegetables, who said his feet. He said his feet were like hands. He's like, oh, yeah.
Oh, no, that's just a terrible, terrible image. No, please.
I think you're getting the wrong end of the stick here, Julie, with all due respect. I mean, he's implying he could lift, he could do anything with the ball, he could caress it, stroke it. Anyway, let's move on. Let's just have a little look at who might be leaving, Kev. Mason Melia, the great Mason, who was brought in much fanfare. I don't know why, because he didn't do that much in Ireland, but admittedly as a young boy. He's going to Lincoln, it seems. Apparently, Pat Matesar to Villa. Berrival still talking to Forest, Villa, Newcastle, or anyone else. Solomon possibly going to the Hammers. Flappy off to Juventus, hopefully. Anywhere, any fucking where, just go. The other one, of course, is Mikey Moore. And I'm just, you and I have talked about Mikey a lot on this show, and we rate him. He didn't do much on the tour, not necessarily the way you judge him. I'm not sure RDZ rates him, and I'm beginning to doubt myself a little bit. Thoughts?
It's so hard to know, isn't it? Because he hasn't played. I don't know how many matches has he actually played for the first team? He did. Has he played a couple?
A few. He played in some of the European matches. He started against Palace, didn't he, away? Season before last. He had a few. Yeah,
but he hasn't had a chance to do that. And, with all due respect to Scottish football, he wasn't necessarily tested there. He looked good. From what we could see, he looked good for Rangers. And his attitude was obviously good. No doubt about that. I don't know. How do managers even make these decisions? I think sometimes there may be just a personal thing. It may just be, I'm not sure I can work with him, or I'm not sure he's going to fit in with the rest of the team on a personal basis. The one thing you pray for with all of these young players is that they don't go on somewhere else and become brilliant, really. He might, of all the young players that we've mentioned, he's one that might well do very well if he doesn't stay with us. If I had to put money on it, I think he will go. Whether it's on loan for another year, but I think he'll go. Which is a shame. But
well, given that they're looking, RDZ, he's looking for a left winger, and that's, I guess, is where you would expect Mikey Moore to play. It doesn't suggest great confidence in his ability to play that role. All right, let's have a few stupid tweets. Here's one. Tottenham Hotspur transfer target Savinho has already personally indicated to Manchester City that he wants to join Spurs this summer. That tweet was obviously there when he gave that personal indication. Not sure what the other corroboration might be. Here's one. I quite like this one. A guy called Ash tweeted, "If Richie is still here come Brentford, then I'm not sure what the aim of next season is." I like it. And another one, partly because it annoyed me so much. We went from Krupi to Watkins. I'm low-key done with next season. Now, I haven't got a fucking clue what low-key means in that context, or indeed in any context. I mean, Rob, you're a young boy. You get the vernacular. What the fuck? What does that mean? I'm low-key done with next season. Do I sound like an old fogey?
I would like the question reread, actually, Simon, to be an old fogey, because the context I need to. Is Loki a player that we're trying to sign or something?
It could well be.
Okay, Loki Dunn. Oh, him, Richard Dunn's. Yeah, sorry, we'll go.
Richard Dunn's boy. Yeah. All right. Well, we haven't cleared that up at all, have we? I tell you what. Let's move on, shall we, to room 101. So why don't we start with you, Julie? You've hinted at where this might go. Enlighten us all.
My 101 for this week is Juventus. Now, I was really pleased with Juventus for a while because they're taking RKM, but their coach Spalletti, he's been very dubious about Vicario. I've got his quote somewhere, but basically he's saying, why do you want to get rid of him? Is there something that you haven't told us? And I just think, Juventus, please, for fuck's sake, take him. What will we have to do to get rid of him? Just look at his reel. Just, not that bit, this bit. Just take him, please. So really, perhaps it's not Juventus that I want to put in 101. Perhaps it's Spalletti himself for expressing a lack of enthusiasm for what is the man who is the greatest Italian keeper since Gigi Buffon, basically.
I think we all kind of understand where we are, and I'm totally with you. Take him, for fuck's sake. Just take him. And I think Rob would drive him to the airport. All right, Rob, what's your 101?
As usual, I'm going to be slightly greedy because I haven't actually been on since the end of the World Cup. So there was something from the World Cup that is still simmering and I would like to get rid of it. And that's every fucking substitute going on the pitch when any goal is scored to celebrate. It doesn't matter what fucking goal it is. They're all there. I think any substitute that goes onto the pitch to celebrate with his teammates or even at the side of the pitch shouldn't be allowed to play. They should be substitutes, and it's no, you can't bring him on because you came onto the pitch. Sorry, and that has got to go in. Anybody not involved directly in the game or the goal, stay in your cage.
All substitutes going into room 101, or just
Not all substitutes. It's just people. There's just that whole thing of the World Cup. Every single goal that was celebrated, every substitute ran, and there was a massive pile on, a massive bundle, like a group of boys in a playground, which is fine because that's what football's about, but not at a serious football game because it takes hours to get them off the pitch and then blah blah blah. It's not. I actually think it'd be a really good opportunity if you really wanted to cheat to sneak a player on at that point and to end the game with an extra player. If that happened, I would be really pleased actually. So maybe I'm shooting myself in the left and right foot at the same time.
Yeah. Well, that's a novel idea, isn't it? You know,
I mean, after the weekend, it's obvious we play better with 10 men, so it probably wouldn't. We probably would be literally shooting ourselves in the foot. So if that's the one from the World Cup that is cleared up, and I feel so much better for getting that off my chest. So thank you. The other one is something that's been with me for a while, and it's basically set piece coaches. And I don't disagree with them per se. That's a horrible word, per se. But it's so the commentary of the weekend, somebody said, "Oh, Chelsea have just signed Austin McPhee, the Villa set piece coach." It's like, fuck off. Why? Like, okay, you can have a set piece coach, but don't give him a name. He's just a set piece coach. He's not all of a sudden really important. I mean, how difficult can it be? Like, there can't be that many permutations to it. Stop giving him an important role. That's it.
Okay, well, I rather like that. I think you've got two very valid entries into room 101. Let's have a room 101 from you, Kev.
Well, I'm going to go for UEFA because the obvious one is to go for FIFA. But UEFA have actually pissed me off more than FIFA, not least because everyone's just giving them so much praise for taking the moral high ground. And they're a disgusting organisation. Just as bad as FIFA. They just haven't made quite as much money as FIFA. Everything they've done with the Champions League, all that nonsense last year with that sort of fake league thing, which I could never work out at all, and led to Arsenal fans saying we're undefeated because they'd played 6 teams from Azerbaijan. And, it was just the Champions League used to be the European Cup. It should still be the European Cup. There should only be champions in it. There should also be a Cup Winners' Cup.
Unless Spurs finish in the top 4.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
That would be the exception.
Yeah.
That's important. Yeah. And also UEFA came up with that bloody awful European Super League idea, which Levy was well up for, as we know, 4 or 5 years ago. They're horrible. And somehow they've taken the moral high ground. They've seen a great big gap and, where the moral high ground is, and they've sort of jumped on top of it. But they're horrible. They're horrible. And I think ultimately we're going to regret this whole business. And I think we're going to regret potentially FIFA losing the power that they have. And that is not to defend anything that Infantino or FIFA have done, in league with Trump and everyone else. But it's just, it just worries me that UEFA are being given a pass on all of this. Yeah. So that's, yes.
Yeah. So basically governance, anyone, would we throw the FA, Premier League, we'd chuck them all in? Are they all a bunch of wankers, or is it mainly international operations?
I think, again, they're slightly less successful wankers than UEFA, who are less successful wankers than FIFA. But yeah, I don't really trust anyone in, positions of any kind of authority in football. There are some decent people, obviously, probably somewhere.
Wouldn't count on that. All right. Well, look, thank you for that. Good entries for 101. I've got a few things really, really niggling. And I talked about low key. I'm low key done. Some of the Twitter vernacular is really pissing me off. RDZ ball. We're going to play RDZ ball. Shut up. You don't even know what that means. Here's another one. Bro thinks he's Messi. Bro, Oh, he's washed. He's washed. What's that mean? And here's one that really gets my goat. If you know, you know. Look, it's a public forum. Say the thing you know. Say it out loud, or keep it private. Don't suggest you know something that the rest of us don't know, and then keep it to yourself, you fucker. And the other thing that's really pissing me off this week is flies. On a completely separate note, flies. What's the point of flies? Does anyone know? What do they do apart from buzz around you, piss you off? They sit on shit and then they sit on your hand. What's the point of flies? And this afternoon I was trying to have my lunch and I was being absolutely besieged by flies. And I just started shouting, fuck off! Like that. And my wife said, you sound like a complete madman. I said, yeah, it's flies. And she said, I get you now. I hear what you're saying. I get it. So flies, room 101. There we are. I think we are done, apart from, of course, the key game coming up, and I've just checked it on my phone. We've got a friendly on the 8th, of course, and my app says Tot versus Get at Hotspur Ways in Enfield, and I'm going to be very honest here. I don't know who the fuck Get are. Is it Getafe? Or is it something else? Julie, you'll know this.
I haven't a fucking clue. I really haven't. Sorry.
Anyone? Rob?
No, I'm with you, or get the fuck out of here or something. But,
yes, get the fuck. Well, it's a friendly at Hotspur Way, Kev, so it can't be very important.
No.
What I will say.
Can I just say? Sorry, Sam.
I
just want to say, every time I hear the word Enfield anywhere, it just gives me a little happy buzz. So thank you for using the word Enfield.
You're welcome.
Which is the cultural centre of civilization and always has been. So thank you.
It is. Now, look, I just want to say Julie is leaving us now to go to a rival podcast.
Only temporarily, Simon. Only temporarily.
We'll be having words. After this, Julie.
They pay better. They pay better.
Well, she's going to appear on the Spurs show, which is a super podcast. We like the Spurs show, so we'll let that go. There are lots we don't like, of course. So we'll say a bit of farewell and thank you to Julie. Kev, Tot Get, what's your thinking?
I Get a pretty powerful away, so I'm going for a 4-1 win to Get.
4-1 win Get. And Rob?
Depends whether we sign, that goal-scoring machine. But I think Richarlison, the run he's on, I can see us spinning 3 or... I can see us running out 3 or 4-0.
That's a pretty bold prediction. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. By the way, we've got 2 matches coming up against TSG, not PSG, T. I haven't got a fucking clue who they are either. But anyway, we'll worry about that next week. So my thanks to Rob White, to Kevin Acott, and the recently departed for another podcast, that is Julie Welch. And you can follow us on Twitter at NiceOneCyrilPod. We've got a website, www.niceonecyrilpodcast.co.uk. All of the episodes are on there, and lots of other info, photos, and blah, blah, blah. And why not subscribe to the podcast, give us a follow, whatever that thing is, on the podcast platform of your choosing. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We appreciate your tuning in, and we'll be back next week with more stuff. Till then, come on, you Spurs.